Okay, so today we're going to be doing a batch review. I'm going to be reviewing 3 different books. We're going to be talking about Sputnik Sweetheart, the third Percy Jackson series, and Red Sister. I'm going to be spoiler-free for Sputnik Sweetheart and Red Sister. Percy Jackson, I'll do spoilers because a lot of people have read it already. But I am going to go into more extensive spoiler-free detail. So if you're the type of person that doesn't want to know anything about a book going into it, but you still want to know generally did I like it or not, go check out my wrap-up for a very brief summary of my thoughts. This is going to be more in-depth while still keeping it spoiler-free. If you're not interested in all 3 of these books, there will be timestamps in the description so you can skip around a little bit. But the first book that we're going to be talking about here is Sputnik Sweetheart. This is my first Murakami book. Okay, so brief description of this book. Actually Kei is technically our main character. Kei is the narrator of the book. He's the perspective that we're viewing everything through. Kei is in love with his best friend, Sumira. He's obsessed with her. He kind of admits it in the beginning. Sumira starts working for this woman called Mew and falls in love with Mew. And then Sumira and Mew work together. They go off to Greece. It's originally set in Japan, it starts in Japan, and then they go off to Greece for a while. And then while they're in Greece, Sumira disappears, and Kei flies to Greece to try to help Mew figure out what happened to Sumira. Sans the police. Because reasons. How did I feel about this book? You know, Murakami, you can let me know if I'm saying this wrong. I looked up a pronunciation. I'm not positive that I got it right, though. He has such a fantastic writing style that's so readable. His work is translated, so I guess part of this goes to the translator, but he has such a captivating writing style where even though half the time I was thinking, what am I reading and why am I reading it? I wanted to keep reading it. It was so enjoyable to read. And the general plot line of it was also very interesting. I've heard that it's very similar to another one of his books, but this is my first one, so I can't really say anything about it. But it was such a unique concept, and I really enjoyed following the journey. Mostly. He's an author that I would pick up again just for the sake of wanting to read the way he writes again, because I felt I constantly wanted to keep reading, even in the scenes where I was like, why am I reading this? I still wanted to keep reading because he has such an enjoyable writing style. Also, it was an interesting story. He wrote I guess it's a surrealist story where we're in the real world, we're in reality, but also sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're in a different dimension, and sometimes, not dimension, different world. And sometimes, we would just kind of ebb in and out of reality. So, you know, that's not my style. I don't read a lot of surrealism. I tried real hard to make sense of this story. In fact, in the end, after I finished the book, I actually picked this book up because a couple of my friends read it, and they were like, we don't know what happened. You should read it too so we can talk. So I read it. And I got on the phone with my friends after this. We talked for an hour, theories, trying to figure out what in the world just happened. And I don't know, it's kind of hard for me. This is, like I said, surrealism isn't my genre. So, just processing with you guys, it was kind of hard for me because I wanted so badly to make it make sense. And we're talking all these theories about like what exactly happened in the end and with this entire story. And all the theories that each of us came up with, we were like, okay, yeah, I like that theory, but if this means this, then what about this? What about Carrot? What about this character over here? What does that mean for them? And okay, well that makes sense, but then what about this scene over here? That pokes a hole in it. And any theory we could come up with, and we spent an hour theorizing, any theory we could come up with, it always had holes. And so I don't know. I guess you're just not supposed to know. Like, you're supposed to speculate at the end. I know it's not fair to compare authors, but it reminded me so much of Du Maurier and the way she's not a surrealist, but the way she would give these clues that would make you wonder, and then she would end it. She ends her books right before you really know what's happening so that you can speculate and have theories. But it's all the information is still there, and I felt like with Murakami, it wasn't. I don't know. I still don't know. I still don't have a theory that makes sense to me. And maybe that's the point. Maybe it's you're just supposed to hands off, let go and say that was a trip and like let that be good enough. And maybe I just need to train my mind to be okay with that. I didn't love everything in this book. Murakami writes in the way I think it reads is that he really wanted to write about sex, but this book didn't dictate enough of that, so he just kind of crammed it in there. And there were a lot of scenes that it felt very awkward and jarring, the way it would come up. Like, it didn't always make sense. Like, there's one scene where somebody is telling Kay about the disappearance, and it's like, yeah, we need the information about what happened before the disappearance, like the weird things that were going on, and we need to know about the disappearance. But did we need to know about the sex stuff in between? Was there a reason that this person decided to tell this third party that they just met this elaborate story? Seems out of character, like super out of character for that character to do that. Like, it felt very unnatural a lot of times, and also I just really don't like the way he writes it because it comes off really creepy. It's translated, so maybe, I mean, I don't know, but I don't love that aspect of his books. Not because it shouldn't be in there, just because it didn't fit, and the way it was written was also kind of like, ugh. But the story was still really interesting, and I actually, despite all the complaints I have, because I don't know how to describe this spoiler-free without like just telling you about the scenes, but there were certain scenes that were very, why is that there? So despite the complaints I had, I still had a really fun time reading it and discussing it with my friends and like going off about certain things. So I gave it 3 stars because I have mixed feelings. This is an example of a book that doesn't actually cleanly fit in 3 stars because I had a good time reading it. There were just also things that I was like, why is this here? And in general, I think I like a few more clues that actually lead to a solid this is what happened. But it was really fun theorizing. It was really fun reading with friends. I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about this book. Overall positive experience though. Percy Jackson. This is the only book that I'm going to be talking about with some spoilers. My spoiler-free thoughts on this is that, man, I really enjoy the whimsy of this world. I haven't really read very much about Greek mythology and stuff, and the personalities that Rick Riordan decided to put on these gods is hilarious. It fits with what little I know about Greek mythology. It fits, but it's also very funny. There's a lot of really silly stuff in his books. His humor, sometimes it hits for me and sometimes it misses for me, but it's such a charming story, you know? Like, I love Percy Jackson. He's such a funny, loyal, ambitious character, and I really love his character. I enjoy the side characters in these stories as well, and this one in particular, we got new side characters. The thing that doesn't work for me, there are certain things that I just feel, I'll explain in the spoiler-filled part, but the thing that consistently isn't working for me in these books is, and I've said this before, so I apologize for being repetitive, it's very formulaic. Each one of these 3 books kind of goes the same way, where it's like something happens, there's a prophecy, there's a quest, we go on a quest to save the day, and then when we're on the quest, it's, oh no, roadblock, we made it, keep moving, oh no, roadblock, we made it, keep moving, oh no, roadblock, and it's just like, you know, I get tired of it. There's always new problems and new quests and new creatures and characters that they're interacting with, but the base formula has been staying the same, and I don't know, I don't like repetitiveness. Here I am repeating that I don't like it. Okay, cool. Spoilers, if you don't want them, skip to the next book. Oh my golly. The fact that Percy's fatal flaw is his loyalty, what are you gonna do with that, Rick? I mean, loyalty isn't great. I get that it's a fatal flaw for heroes, and I understand why. But excuse me? I imagine, this is my guess. My guess is that in the final book, we'll find that his loyalty is actually a good thing and not a fatal flaw, and more people should be loyal, and it's a wonderful thing. He just also has to have a head on his shoulders and, you know, think before you act, before you jump into danger all the time. But this was a really fun adventure. It wasn't like book 2 where I started to see the formula and I was tired of the formula, but I also didn't really like the story. With this one, it was a really fun adventure. I enjoyed hanging out with the gods more. Not Thalia. Zoe and her whole crew, all the archers, I really enjoyed that dynamic. It was so goofy how irritated she was with the English language for changing, and she refused to change it herself, so she's speaking in very old-timey language. Oh, also the fact that Percy actually didn't get a quest this time. They were like, no, this one's not for you. And Percy was like, yes, anyway. And he just went for it. We spent a lot of time with him alone in this book, which was different and interesting. But he did, of course, end up joining up with them. And I really appreciated character's growth in this book. He was a pretty different person from the beginning of the book to the end. So it was less of like a fun romp like the other two. And there was actually like some really heavy stuff that did go on in here with the deaths and stuff, which I'm curious how many of those deaths are actually gonna last, or if we're, you know, fake outs. But Rick went a little bit deeper with this one, and I really enjoyed going in with a little bit heavier themes while still keeping the series as a whole pretty light. Some things, okay, so Bianca, is that her name? What is her name? Bianca. I think that's correct. Bianca. I don't know what to do with Bianca's character. She agreed to join the hunt instantly. She's like 12. All these kids are like 12 in the hunt. And how are you going to, first of all, make this decision at this young age? Why is it even presented to children this young? Like choosing immortality and to be devoted to this person and to not even speak to men at all as a 12-year-old, that's a big decision. And the fact that she was just like, yep, done with you, bro. You've been a burden to me. I'm out. She didn't say that, but she kind of said that. And it was just such an easy decision for her. I mean, like, she barely even thought about it. And then she was doing stupid stuff, like they go into this place and the rules are you don't touch. And then predictably, of course, because, did I say predictably? Predictably, of course, because always in these situations in Harry Potter and Pirates of the Caribbean, in every single scenario where we see this happening, somebody has to touch. Aladdin, that's another example. Somebody has to touch, and it has to be her. So Bianca, the dum-dum, is like, I just decided I don't like my brother anymore, but I'm gonna get this thing for him, and also we're all gonna die. And then Thalia is also a character that kind of confuses me a little bit because, like, all throughout this book, she was giving Percy information about Greek mythology and about the camp in general. She knew a lot. She understood a lot about Greek mythology and the camp. And it's like, you've been a tree. How do you know these things? Like, you've been a tree for a long time. You never even went to camp, but you know a lot about the camp and Greek mythology. Where does that come from? She knows more than Percy sometimes. That final battle at the end was was really, really cool. I enjoy Rick's action scenes. I think he does a really good job with balancing all of his characters, and they're really fun to read. I'm sad that Annabeth wasn't really in this book because I'm really enjoying the way Rick is building up Annabeth and Percy, between like him being more of like a 14-year-old teen in this one, and Annabeth is taller than me, and oh no, sort of thing. And then, his willingness to jump into danger the second Annabeth is in trouble, and how much he'll fight for her, and just like a lot of little moments. When he met that one really beautiful god, and she looks according to the person who's looking at her. Like, whatever this person views as beautiful, that's how she looks. And she looked like Annabeth to Percy. That was really sweet. I'm enjoying his build up for these two a lot. I did say the humor is kind of hit or miss for me. I feel like so many people love the damn humor in this book. They were at a dam at one point, and so they kept using the word dam as a joke. Like, let's go to the damn snack bar, and they're talking about the dam, like the water. I get it. I get it. I made those jokes when I was in middle school too, but it's just not really funny to me right now in my life. It's like, oh yeah, I would have laughed at that if I were reading this when I was like, 13. Sometimes the humor is just like, I would have laughed at that if I had read this at a different point in my life. But it's like, it's kind of a miss for me now. I feel like that is going to be the most controversial thing that I say in this entire video, and I haven't even talked about Red Sister yet. Overall, I did enjoy this book. I think that it's a sweet, charming story, and there's a lot of stuff that I like about it, but there's also a lot of stuff that I don't know, isn't working for me as well. It's a series that I really want to like because I know you guys like it so much. I don't love it on the level that people that grew up with it do. But I'm still going to continue on to the next book because I really like Labyrinth stories. And finally, Red Sister. Man, is this a popular fantasy book. Okay, woof. I almost feel like I'm out on an island and having really mixed feelings about this because the series is so well loved, but I have mixed feelings. This is going to be spoiler free, but like I said at the beginning of the video, I am going to go into some more in-depth details of why it didn't work for me, so continue at your own risk, I guess. 3 pros, 3 cons, because that's the best way I can structure this. What I liked. Okay, I guess first, this is an assassin training school. Nona gets sold off and then she gets rescued and she goes off to this convent where children are being trained up to be assassin nuns. There's brutal teachers that try to poison you in the classroom, and because she wants to teach you to be wary and she teaches you a lot about poisoning. I mean, there's a lot. We're following these kids. I think we start with them at 9 and continue with them for a couple of years. I think they're like 11 or 12 by the end of this book. And there's a lot of time jumps that really aren't well, like sometimes the author will just be like, Nona's 10 now, so she should probably know this. And I'm just like, oh, okay, we're 10 now. Cool. Yeah, sure. Why not? There's also jumping into the future sometimes, and there's flashbacks, and none of it is really well pointed out. I mean, you're suddenly in a different time, and you're just like, oh, I guess we're here now. So you gotta be on your toes with this book. But anyway, pros and cons. Here we go. Pro. The world and setting and magic system is all really, really interesting. Mark Lawrence came up with something very creative and unique and cool. And every little detail I learn about this world and how it works and the magic is all intriguing. However, con, we don't have like any information on it. Like really important details about this world and about this story are regularly brought up, like ship hearts and the Ark are brought up a lot in this book, but we're never actually told what these things are or shown what these things are. And so by the end of the book, I kind of have an idea, but I still don't actually know. And like the world is really interesting. Like you have different tribes of people and their bloodlines carry different abilities, which is really cool, but somehow you can be full-blooded in all 4 tribes, and I don't really understand how that works. And the list could go on. There's so many cool, interesting things about the world and the magic, but none of it's actually explained to you at all, and not even in it's a slow unraveling sort of way. No, you're just not gonna know. And I'm cool with a slow unraveling, but this felt like a withholding. Like there are certain instances where I feel like the story dictates and the characters dictate that I should know some of these things. Like some of these things should be explained to the reader at this point, but then Mark will just end a chapter at the point where we should be getting an explanation, and then we get a time jump and we move forward. And it's like, it reads like intentionally withholding, which doesn't do a good job for me of making me intrigued to learn more. Instead, it just makes me confused and frustrated. Pro, the friendships in this are great. Nona has been through a lot, and she doesn't believe that she's deserving of love and considers herself a monster, which means that she keeps a lot of secrets. But despite all that, Nona considers friendship and loyalty sacred. And watching her slowly build friendships with these girls and seeing their bonds come together was really satisfying. As well as I also really enjoyed the nuns that were teaching the classes. They had very distinct personalities, and their dynamics amongst each other was also really fun. I just in general enjoyed the relationship dynamics within this book. Another con, and this is kind of a piggyback off of my last one, is that again, I just feel Mark Lawrence's hand all over this book. Like it felt I felt him everywhere in this story. Not only him intentionally withholding information from me and cutting scenes off in weird places just so that he doesn't have to explain something, but I also felt his hand in the way he delivered certain information. Like a conversation and a question within class would feel completely constructed just so that a nun can go on a rant about how much she hates men and how much better women are and how great of fighters these women are and how awesome they are. And sometimes when he really wanted to get a point across, like how much they hate men, there's a lot of man hate in this book. When he really wants to get a point across, he will construct conversations that feel really unnatural just so that this character can go on a monologue. One thing that Mark writes really, really well is action sequences. There's a lot that goes on in this book. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of boring parts too, but there's a lot that goes on in this book. As far as like action sequences, it's a lot of classroom action, but there's really brutal scenes like flesh dripping off of a hand while it's being burned, or I don't want to go too deep into it. Just there's a lot of really great face-offs that happen, and I really enjoy the way he writes his fight scenes. I think that they're really engaging. I don't think that they go on too long. I think that he goes like deep enough into the sickness of this world, the sickness of this society, the darkness of this society. And I really, really enjoy that. I think he writes it really well. My last con is going to be a nitpick, and I'm sorry, but the reason I say there are really boring parts about this book, and also, again, it's just like, so Nona tells her story of how she got sold off, why she got sold off, I think 4 times in this book. And it's like, it's intentional. She tells a lie, and then she tells another lie later on because she got caught in that lie, and now she's telling the story again, but it's a little bit different. And then she tells the story again because she got caught in the lie, and so she's saying it again, but it's a little bit different. And then finally we get the real story. And I don't care. She's already been established to be a liar, so I don't care to read this story over and over again with slight differences. And I feel like there's a lot of things like that Mark put in the book that would make the reread really satisfying, because you're catching these little things that now you know the wider story. These little moments or these little scenes are really cool, but in the first time read, it's not. Makes the first time read drag in certain areas. Overall, I have really mixed feelings about this book. I think it's a really cool concept, and there are certain things that I think he did super well, but in general, there's a lot of stuff that I don't like about Mark's storytelling style. I have been told that the next 2 books are much, much better, so I am going to continue on with the series. I'm actually buddy reading this with some friends as well, so I will be continuing on with the series to hopefully see what people love so much about it, but the first book was a really cool idea, but the execution was kind of rough for me. I know that I'm the unpopular opinion here, and people will be angry. And you know what? You can live your life, you can think what you think, but that is what I think. I would love to chat with you guys more about any of these books in the comments. If you want to discuss spoilers, make sure to do the spoiler space thing. I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.